Hello everybody, I'm your host Eddie Vegas and welcome to the second part of this first tutorial for Full House Poker, in which we will cover position. Position is one of the most important things to understand when deciding whether to play your hand pre-flop. And so, what do I mean by position? Position is simply where you are on the table in relation to where the button is. What is your position in terms of where you are in terms of where the button is? To illustrate this, I've made a little diagram which I'm going to show you right now, and don't worry, the ladies will be coming back real soon. Here I have divided the table into 4 quarters, and the 4 quarters are the 4 different spots or the 4 different positions that you can be in. The first position we're going to talk about is late position, which I've colored green. And late position is going to be pretty much when you're 6-handed, it's going to be the button. In other words, when you have the button, you're in late position. Late position I've colored green because late position is the best spot to be in on the table for you. Why? Because after the flop, everyone is going to act in front of you. In other words, you're going to be the last person to act. This is going to give you a huge advantage because you're going to see how everyone else acts before you have to act. This is a huge advantage for you, and what the late position can do for you, I'm going to get to in some other tutorials, but for the moment, just remember that in late position, you can analyze your hand and give yourself a little bit more leeway in terms of what hands you're going to play, in terms of high card strength, suitedness, and connectedness, as I spoke about in the last tutorial. If there should happen to be more than 6 players on the table, if there should happen to be 7 or 8 or more, at that point their late position can be also the cutoff, which is the spot to the right of the button. Okay, so if there are 7 or 8 players, at that point their late position includes the last 2 spots, the button and the cutoff. And these 2 spots are good for you. You can go ahead and play a wider range of hands from this spot. We move to middle position, and middle position is going to be the spots just to the right of the button and the cutoff. And I've colored this yellow because at this point here, middle position is slightly a dangerous position for you. You're going to want to judge a little bit more harshly whether you have a good hand or not in terms of high card strength, suitedness, and connectedness when deciding whether to play from middle position. You're going to want to just be a little bit more careful at this point. Early position are the spots, maybe the spot just next to the big and small blinds. And I've colored this orange because this is a dangerous position for you, and in early position you're going to want to play only the most premium hands because you're going to be one of the first people to act after the flop hits. Finally, we come to the small and big blinds, and the small and big blinds are sort of a special case, but I've colored it red because the small and big blinds are the most dangerous spots to be in for 2 reasons. One is the same reason I've been talking about all along, that is, you're going to be one of the first people to act after the flop hits. You have no idea what anybody has, nor do you have any idea what they're going to be doing after you act, and that puts you in a really bad spot. Second reason, and perhaps more important, is that in Full House Poker, what you're going to find is that everybody seems to limp in. If you played any Full House Poker at all, you know that it's limp, 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 all the way around the table, and then it gets around to you, and you're in either the small or the big blind. In the small blind, you're going to be tempted to complete the blind and see a flop because it's so cheap. And, of course, when you're in the big blind, well, you get to see a flop cheaply, not only cheaply, but free of charge. And at that point there, you're going to be playing the hand and you're going to be able to see a flop. The problem with this is that you're going to be getting into the hand and you're going to be playing a flop, and it's most likely that you're not going to have a good hand. You're going to have a hand that probably doesn't have high card strength, that's perhaps not suited or connected, but yet you're seeing a flop anyway. So it's a double whammy in the small and big blinds. not only are you one of the first people to act, but you're going to be oftentimes getting into a hand cheap or free of charge, and you're going to be playing these hands without really having any high card strength, suitedness, or connectedness. So this section is colored red. You need to be very, 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 very careful when you're in this spot. Okay. I think that pretty much covers that. Let's go ahead and switch back to the ladies. And now we're going to get to perhaps what is the most interesting thing about this tutorial. And here it is. What I want you to get into the habit of doing is that when you're going to decide whether to play a hand, you're either going to raise with that hand or you're going to fold it. Believe it or not, I do not want you to limp in. I want you to either raise or I want you to fold. If your hand is not good enough and you look at it and you feel like you can't raise with that hand, I want you to fold it. I do not want you limping. The reason why I do not want you to limp in will be clear after the next tutorials when we get into post-flop play and playing on the turn in the river. But for the moment, I want you to get into this habit of either opening, in other words, raising, or folding, and not limping. You're going to be playing exactly the opposite as everybody else on Full House Poker, and there's several advantages to this, but I want you to start getting into this right now so that you're used to doing it, and then as the other tutorials hit YouTube, you're going to understand a lot better why this is such a good strategy. Okay, the final thing I want to say is that you perhaps are thinking, well, Eddie, I'm not hardly going to be playing any hands, and this doesn't sound like any fun. I kind of want to see a flop. I kind of want to bluff. I want to play. I want to see what's happening. I want to do some things. If this is your attitude and this is your opinion, I honestly have to say that perhaps poker is not for you. Poker is a game, above all, of patience and well-timed aggression, and we're going to learn right now about patience, and we're going to get to the well-timed aggression in future tutorials. So if you're not ready to do that, you really should find another game. However, having said that, just because you fold doesn't mean you're not involved in the hand. If you're going to be folding your hand and then going and getting a drink of water or going and taking a look outside, you're never going to get anywhere. You've got to be involved in the hand, and basically one of the reasons why I want you to fold is so that you can concentrate all your attention on what the other players are doing while you're folding. Paying great attention to what the other players are doing, who's folding, who's raising, who's going all in, who's doing this, who's doing that. This is super important, and otherwise you're really not going to come very far in poker. So I want you to really start getting into either raising or folding and paying strict attention to what other people are doing. The other thing I want to say is that calling a raise puts you in a dangerous situation. If somebody raises the pot in front of you, you're going to need an even better hand to call that raise with than you would to raise in the first place. This goes double for the all-in guys, and you're going to run into this quite a bit. The guys who go all-in or make huge, huge raises with nothing, or they're making huge raises, and you don't know why they're doing it. This sort of situation is a dangerous situation for you, and you need a better hand to call a raise with than you do to raise with. Okay, I think that pretty much covers it, and I hope I'm under 15 minutes. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and the next tutorial will cover flop play and how to read the board.